Good. All right. Good morning, everybody. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Do we have anyone to approve the minutes of the September minutes? First. I'll second. Harris. We have the standing reports, Program Agency Director.
So there's a couple things. First and foremost, our annual conference is slated for the end of February. 3 pre-cons this year. There's a difficult airway pre-con, a leadership pre-con, and for the COIs and CICs, there's an instructor update pre-con, as well as the 2 days of general sessions. For those 2 days alone, you can get up to, I think it's 12 hours of CMEs. Get those, and they're on various subject matters that correspond with the CME recertification. We looked at the different requirements and selected accordingly. Additionally, we're looking for agencies and individuals to submit award nominations. We've gotten a couple already, looking for more so we can recognize providers from across the region. These also include physicians, they include emergency nursing or nursing, specs. Paul, I'd like if you guys can write all that dispatcher call. I think that would be a worthy thing for consideration.
Sure.
And then there's a leadership one, there's training, there's innovation, there's ALS, BLS, there's agencies. So looking for all the possibilities so we can recognize people locally as well as submit them for recognition at the state level.
Is that the administrator or program director report too, or?
Well, we have 3 EMT classes that we have gotten approval for or seeking approval for the January start. We'll have one in the Penn Yan area. We'll have one here in the Geneva greater area, and then one out in Richmond. Still looking at maybe an opportunity to do some other ones. We recently received a request for a quick CFR court. There's some BLS FRs that have a lot of CFRs that haven't had the opportunity to take a core class or a refresher, and that would cripple their response abilities. So we're looking at aiding them in taking that class.
Medical director reports, Dr. Sheik.
So no big updates yet because we haven't had a new CMAC meeting, but we had a very productive protocol meeting that we're all going to vote on in this next CMAC in December. So a couple of big changes to look forward to on the horizon, not limited to some protocols on preeclampsia and postpartum hemorrhage. The other thing is the state officially put out a policy statement for SGA devices. So
yeah, that's on the agenda for business.
So we can talk about it when we get to new business. But other than that, no big changes.
My report, so for training education, so we had a meeting on October 27th. We talked about a couple things. We once again discussed the 2-day RSI class that's going to be offered as a pre-conference course, airway course. It's going to be administered by airheads. And we voted among the education committee that we're going to use this as the RSI education and initial training. The one part that we had discussed, and we didn't, I don't know if we reached a final decision on it was whether there's going to be like a kind of a high stakes exam or a certification at the end, I guess a verification of skills. So a couple ideas were about it not being a high stakes pass or fail scenario, but more basically evaluation by multiple providers to kind of have a general impression of whether somebody was to pass or fail. I should maybe say that. We were going to touch base with their methods to see what other regions have used. Because other regions have used this same model with the same education, same content. So we were going to touch base with them to see what other regions had done. To see if they had a tool, whether it was a test, questions, practical as well. And I don't think we have feedback on that yet.
I'm still waiting for that. It is a nationally vetted class being taught across the country, so it's, the content is applicable to everybody. So I think consistency is what we were trying to achieve. And I will try to get that information that the committee was looking for by our next meeting on December 2nd.
Scott, pardon my ignorance, but is there like a certain number of intubations that need to be supervised, like on real patients, for a medic to become certified, or no?
So, so the requirements to so there's age requirements and then there's provider requirements. So that's actually kind of the next part I was going to go over. So we were looking at age requirements, but for individual requirements, I believe it was you had to basically be through a research. So you had to have been a paramedic for so I guess a paramedic for 3 years. So and then an agency would put an application together, and they would apply, and then they would be basically be submitted to the training committee. We would vet the names, and then we would make recommendations. Then at the Remac meeting for names that we would recommend to be able to go to the training. So I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows better, I don't think there's a specific number of intubations that you have to have. So the second part is the ongoing training, right? So for maintaining certification, one of the things we had talked about was having every 6 months or so to have trainings, whether they're in-house or between agencies in cooperation, scenario-based, not just a pass-fail high-stakes exam, but more getting people in, practicing with the providers, having scenarios, practicing till you're comfortable, getting kind of away from the study of either pass or fail without actually getting additional education.
But there was usually something standard they were doing initially, despite the ongoing, right?
Yes.
Wasn't there, so there was something everybody was usually doing initially, and then it was just an ongoing.
Yeah. So the one issue we found over the years is that initial training was very variable.
Right.
And
Whereas this is a little more
going to be consistent, so everybody you know is going to have
right. Understood.
To training.
Yep. Yep. I get you.
Yeah. One of the reasons we were trying to redo the RSI program was we did get some feedback from some providers about how certain there was a lot of consistency in the actual high stakes exam is the right term. There was a lot of consistency in the evaluation of providers. So you could go. One time we would frequently have it actually hosted at Mercy Flight in the hangar, and we would have 4 stations rotating. You would get evaluation by multiple providers, but yet there would actually it's kind of on the physicians. There wasn't a lot of consistency among the physicians, like a huddle talk, like, hey, this is exactly what we're looking for. this is what I'm gonna pass people for, I'm gonna fail people for. And
Yeah.
so I think we kind of fell short on
It
that.
became very subjective.
Yeah. So.
I remember doing a couple of those. I
Yeah.
agreed.
Yeah,
And you know, all the efforts are in the right direction, but yeah, to your point, it was not a standardized and consistent
yeah.
process, so.
And
it's
that's
fair.
the goal to achieve.
Yeah, no, I like it. Like
I
it.
think we didn't have a huddle, among the providers, among the physicians to say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then among us too, there's differences in philosophies, of, who should be doing our side, where the bar is and what. So we're trying to kind of get away from that, so.
And is there a rubric that you're using so it's not as subjective?
Well, there hasn't been, and that's what we're saying. So we're looking at, so the paramedic, I'll give you an example, the paramedics programs are moving away from these, single time, sit down, go through stations, pass, fail type of testing, and moving towards the summative cycling motor, which is the idea is that it's not just a single event, but it's a combination of evaluations and progress, and then there is some final performance pieces, but it's not like this is the moment where this is your final performance. There may be multiple final performances, that have been done that the provider doesn't know about. You're continually being watched to see your performance. So we were going to talk to Remac to see, because it's their curriculum, to see where in that do they have their evaluation. Is there a built-in evaluation? The itinerary for the course looks fantastic, but we don't know if there's any built-in testing material or evaluation piece that's in it already. So we want to reinvent the wheel. One of the ideas that we had talked about was if there wasn't, what would we do? What do we want to do if there isn't one? And we talked about having a written exam. We talked about sitting down and saying, well, should we have a pass-fail sheet where we're going through and maybe it's not, hey, it's your turn, let's sit down, we're going to go through this pass-fail sheet, like a station-based, or more towards each person is going to have, let's say, 3 evaluations that are done, there's multiple, but then coming in the end and saying, like, well, in the time that I've had with this, are they meeting these, objectives, or have they met these metrics? Basically, it's not finalized. We're still, we didn't really have an answer at the meeting as to what exactly we're going to do. We're going to get some more information before making a decision. So, anyone else that was there have anything more to add to that I forgot? No. There was one more thing before we move on. There was a training that's to be offered by the county for treatment of autistic.
Autistic first responders.
Dates.
She isn't.
Do you have the dates?
She hasn't put out the dates yet. Because there's 2 different dates. There's one for
There was a fire date,
enforcement,
and then there was
one for EMS.
Okay, so that is going to be coming. I believe it's this. It was April.
That sounds about right.
I do have a date here, April 7th. I don't know if that was confirmed or if that was a tentative date, but it was April 7th, I think 7 to 10 p.m. here in
That's the Ontario County Board Signature.
And then the next training, education committee meeting is going to be on December 2nd at 10 a.m., hosted at Canandaigua Emergency Squad.
I welcome anybody that is interested. It doesn't have to stay the same core group
Yeah.
that's been going. So anybody, if you're interested, reach out to the LA agents of the group.
What is that again? Sorry.
So the next meeting for training education is going to be December 2nd, and it's going to be at Canandaigua Emergency Squad.
Okay.
It's going to be 10 a.m. and it's open to anyone who wants to participate, contribute, ALS or BLS. The The other thing was if there are providers that are still interested in taking RSI class, agencies that want to submit providers, it's still open. We're still looking. I think we did meet the minimum number of people to have them host the class. It is a little pricey. It's $600.
Currently too short.
We're too short.
Two more
All right.
to,
So
have
if
the
you're
class go.
if you're two people out there that are really interested in this, the other piece is even if you're not interested in doing RSI or you're, let's say, a new paramedic and you're not at that stage to go for RSI, it looks like a fantastic class.
Well, it's good for any of the critical care paramedics that need CME research. I mean, that's 2 days worth of CMEs that they go towards their educational requirements. Or individuals that just plain out want the education.
And what's the proposed date on that, John?
That will be Wednesday and Thursday, so the 25th and 26th of February. At 41 Lakefront Hotel.
And the accreditation for the class has got a lot of initials after it. So,
Yeah, it's
it
CAPC
counts for a lot of scenarios. So you probably get huge education out of it.
I'm sure you
Other
probably,
plethora of things.
many of your topics.
One of the last things, not to keep harping on RSI and airway, but one of the things that was suggested was about increasing for ongoing training to increase participation among agencies. Mercy Flight had volunteered some services for they were traveling.
They have a simulation trail.
Simulation trailer. Simulating a trailer. And this one available. All right, and then Jamie is not here today, so I'm going to read off the Department of Health investigations. So we have a Mr. Wayne Allen of Gloversville, New York, for violations of New York State's Part 800.3 parentheses AK. Doesn't say what the violation is, but he revoked in September of this year. We have a Henry Loriano of Brooklyn, New York, for violations of 800.15, 800.16. He surrendered his certification on October 24th. We're going to miss you, Henry. We have Rafael Quinones Rodriguez for violation of Part 800.15, .16A2, and .16A3. His certification was surrendered effective on October 8th of this year. Actual old business.
So essentially, that's just in there for reminders. We ask that all providers go into this site to register, just so we know who's practicing in the region. It's not a big brother thing or a big oversight thing. It's just we'd like to know how the numbers of the people that are actually practicing within the region.
The region's website?
Yeah, the CNY site that has the login, it's right there. There's a link off of our regional site. Most of the providers that have been around for a while should already be registered in there, but I'm sure there's some new folks that have come into the system that are not.
We have a bunch of new ones, so.
Yeah, if you could just simply have them go in and log in and identify the agency that they're with.
And then old business, Pulsara. Has there any progress with at the facilities with the use of Pulsara and feedback?
I mean, from what I understand, they're being more consistent with the use in Monroe County. We still don't have a go live date for us in the eastern region. I don't know if you guys have you guys gotten it?
I know Thompson has told me that they are live with it.
They're not gonna really allow that.
Well, they've only gotten, the only notifications that they're getting currently are Monroe County agencies that are going into the system. Right.
I used it the other day. And they didn't acknowledge it, but when I got there, I had my patient's paperwork all out, and I didn't even have to tell them their name. So I didn't get an acknowledgement on Pulsera that they acknowledged it, that they knew, but, you know, I didn't get yelled at that I didn't make a phone call either. So, you know, it's,
So it must have rang.
yeah, well, yeah, they got it because they knew the patient. I didn't have to give any patient information, name, and all that stuff, which you normally have to do. So, yeah.
Scott, have you experienced it working clinically at Thompson? or no?
So I actually started working a couple weeks ago at Auburn Hospital,
Okay.
and they use it, and there's no telephone, radio reports. You know, the only phone calls are people calling from that direction.
Sure.
You know, but it gives all the you know, all the data, and in addition, it also kind of helps to track. Does work well for the agencies because it is able to track then how long it's taking to get patients off gurneys and facilities and stuff. So it is kind of hitting
Okay.
metrics too with that.
Sure.
So it's something to keep an eye on in the hospitals.
And Albert, will you let you, if you do not send a Pulsera?
Okay.
I got a couple of questions for Pulsera, and John told me to wrap my 40 minutes into 2 minutes. So I guess the question I have, since it's going on all the providers' phones, who is becoming the burden to EMS? Because we're not really being assigned room numbers to say whether it gets their paperwork or great, but nobody can really tell me what positives it's really doing for EMS. The other thing I'm trying to figure out is, does Pulsera supply the agencies with proof of liability insurance in case there's a breach of data? And how much data mining is, how much data mining is Pulsera platform doing of people's personal phones or data?
Matt, I'm willing to, if you give me a list of your questions, I'll reach out, because there is a rep that handles, like, that we've had at our conference in the past. I'll reach out with those questions and try to get answers for you.
I can do that, because my biggest issue I have is who's holding the liability and protections when there's a breach? Is it the individual provider? I know hospitals, like providers, they have their own, like the systems you're going to use this, they got that, it's a different fancy name, but it's the hospitals which are telling providers this is the platform you're going to use. The hospital holds that liability for them, whereas in EMS, for me to tell my providers you're going to put this on your phone and you're going to use it, technically I'm indicating liability until proven otherwise. So I'm just, if Remac tells us we're going to make our providers do that, does Remac hold part of that liability?
Yeah, I never thought about this. So I mean, if you like, you know, every electronic service you sign up for these days, right? You sign an end user agreement, which you know, a lot of times you're signing away all your rights to it, right? Like so like they can data mine, they can use that data, they can connect it to other data. But when somebody calls an ambulance, right, there's no, with the 911 operator, you know, do you agree to the use of all services, electronic or other, you know? So they're never getting any chance to opt out, right? So, so I would hope that they're not using the data, because it's a really sticky situation if they are. If they're selling that data in any way or using it.
I suspect we're not the first people to have that question.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah,
bet
curious.
there's answers to all those questions that they've
Yeah.
got, but
So those are all good.
I'm really curious that
And John's right, there is like a rep or whatever. It's the same person that's been on some meetings that I've been on before. I think her name is Mindy.
I deal with it, Angie.
Angie, sorry, no, I just remember the name wrong. That's correct. Okay, but then also Jeremy Cushman, I feel like knows all of this stuff too. So I'm happy, I'm also curious about the answers. So I can email both of you and then just kind of start a chain with them.
Yeah.
And just get those answers real quick. Cool?
yeah, send the feedback out to everybody.
Okay.
I'm really curious. Any new business?
There is. So, literally, I think it was Friday afternoon, the state released the SGA policy statement. It was, in essence, that gives the ability for any agencies that did not initially participate in the BLS it was an iGel at that point, but they're grouping it into supraglottic now. So all BLS transporting agencies or ALS first response services are now eligible for the BLS folks to use supraglottic airways.
It has to be iGel.
It does not.
Oh.
It does not. They have to identify what device they are going to use. It needs to be, and everybody should have picked up a copy of the, so it's a Remac approval. So we have to, so any agency, there's an application that they have to fill out. They have to submit it to us with a new medical director verification form, signifying that their medical director is on board with the supraglottic box checked off. All that, along with a training plan, the type of device that they're going to use, it's all spelled out in this policy statement. That all has to be submitted to us for review. Then, once we say, yes, we want, these guys are good to go with that, we submit that to the division of EMS and to the licensure group. And then they'll send a letter to the agency saying, you're all set to go, and they'll give the authorization at that point.
So on that medical record verification, I don't believe there's ever been a box.
There is now.
They added, okay.
They updated the form.
Does a check have to go with it this week?
No.
No.
surprise. It's not a limited lab license.
So, and you have to identify what your training program is. If an agency's using the iGel program, I suggest, and it's only a recommendation, that we utilize the Hudson Valley iGel training program, in which was already vetted by the Commissioner of Health as part of that pilot program. I suggest
The training's not closed.
we strongly encourage agencies to use that along with the associated skills sign-off sheet.
Is there any real appetite for supraglottic airways other than the iGel in the EMS community?
Not that I'm aware of. I think most agencies are carrying the iGels.
Just
But-
curious.
But I don't wanna get in a position where we're saying we're endorsing a specific product.
That was the issue with
No, understood.
Flremsc in the state, was that they couldn't just endorse the product as iGel.
For the pilot, they were able to because it was specific.
No, understood.
Yeah. I
And it
mean,
wasn't through the state, it was through Hudson Valley.
I understood. Well, all that was specific.
But we can say, given this, okay, so yeah, you've got to do all this, you've got to submit this plan. If you're going to use the iGel, this would be a recommended training program. So it
Absolutely.
doesn't
Yep.
put any definitive requirement on there. It's
Well,
just
and it's already been vetted. It's
well,
already
right to that
available.
point. It's a
Some of my agencies have brought other devices to me that I'll tell you, they look a whole lot like iGels that are not iGels. So
Well, no, and then
I
you
don't
just-
know, I'm here to say, like, in my experience seeing a lot of these things, unless you're taking a leap to a whole different type of device, like King Airways and stuff, there are, I guess I will say there's a lot of devices that look a whole lot like iGels. They still have that elastomeric, heat forming, seal and all that. And it's
sure. Well, the issue being though is knowing that training on this one is a known entity.
yeah.
I mean, even if the devices are similar, what that training looks like, whether that's equivalent, then folks are just going to have to go through the somewhat lengthy process of outlining all that, and they can certainly do so, but knowing that that's
I would hope the agencies are having
it's already done.
I would hope the agencies are having conversations with their medical directors on this.
Yeah.
And the medical directors could certainly steer them to one device versus the other, just not the region.
John, for those that were in the pilot program, do they have to redo these steps or are they already in?
My understanding is.
Yes.
So if you're.
Well, so if you read
Because
this,
the original guidance was they were still good to
it
go.
was still correct. It's not really addressed, but the issue is that in the pilot program, you didn't have to update your medical director form and agree to all the things that you're having to agree to here. So yes, but you're gonna have to go through this process even if you're still, but it's very unclear as to, there's no cutoff date or there's no anything like that.
So just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
So I would say it's not
Go on,
full
take
stop
the
and
bus.
start,
Mm-hmm.
but get the paperwork.
Yeah. That makes sense. Fair enough.
Any other new business?
The only other thing I have for new business is I would like a small group of mixed private providers and maybe a couple docs to go through all of our past Remac advisories and determine if they're still applicable, and if they're not, let's get rid of them off the list and move forward.
How big's the list?
Sorry. Question.
Do you want
Before you go sign up.
I have a question.
What's that?
Do you want to bring them to the training meeting?
That leaves you with the burden. I mean,
Okay.
why do you say
22
a couple
items
doxes? That way we can have.
22?
We
22
can have
per
that
the,
for the
Peru
medicine,
app.
is it still appropriate?
Yeah, I can do that, yeah.
Okay. So, use you and Dr. Taylor.
Are you gonna come to the training meeting?
Yeah, when's the training meeting?
It's
December
Is that right?
2nd. December 2nd.
I gotta check my schedule. If not then, and you really wanna do it in person, then we could find somebody
Well,
else.
I can certainly share them electronically.
I'm also happy with doing that.
And then is there a couple providers that would like to, so Zach? Okay.
I'll tell you right now, I can't do that because I'm working clinically. Sorry.
Oh, for that day.
Is there another
Yeah, I
provider?
can't. Nice.
Somebody else?
Yeah, go through it. We send electronically.
Thank you.
If you really want to do it in person, Scott, just find another doc, I guess. But if you are fine doing it over email or whatever, then I'm cool with that too.
Or we can grab a couple offers.
Sure. Okay, sounds good.
Any other?
Were we gonna bring up the, agency that had submitted RFI applications? I know we talked about it at the last
Yes.
meeting.
Well, so I realized after we started the meeting to say, so Western Wing, do we have everything we need to be voted on?
Best of my knowledge, yes.
So we brought it up during the training and education meeting, and we had left it that we wanted to have all applications, but which they've done by far, to have any applications for new RSI to the training education committee 2 weeks before the training education committee meets, so that in the future we can then make a recommendation to the Remac to be voted on. Basically using the training education committee in a way to make sure that all the paperwork is set, all the T's are crossed, I's are dotted, everything's in place. I believe we've had, and I apologize on behalf of the Remac, I think we've had this stuff for, and I don't know why we didn't look at it or vote on at our last Remac. But is all the paperwork in that we know of that,
I will double check, I'm almost 100% certain, but I will have to revisit. I haven't looked at that in a while.
do you want to vote on it today?
I
I believe they do have everything.
Yes, I mean,
They've sent me copies, all of Remac positions as well, so
And Dr. Shi is their, he is the medical director.
we'll put it on him if things aren't there. All right, so, do you want to call a vote for RSI for recommendations?
The only caveat is I would say our RSI training that we're trying to do, and you new folks, you should follow through that program.
So we were also, just one little side comment before, we were also talking about future, applications, and one thing we want to add is any agency that's applying should have more than one RSI provider, right? And the previous definition was to have a provider in place. If you only have one provider, it doesn't really lend itself to like a CQI or a feedback mechanism for evaluating calls and such. So, are you guys sending any providers to this training?
Yeah, at least 2 of us will be going.
Okay, cool. I'll call for a vote. First.
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, passes.
That's all I have. Next meeting, January 20th. If anyone comes up with agenda items, please get them to us sooner because I'll be gone most of January.
John, what was the date for the training meeting?
The what?
The Remac training meeting?
The Remac training meeting is December 2nd, 10 a.m.
There's an awful big smile on your face as you made that. I'm not going to be here most of January.
Did you see the look on mine?
I'll be in the Caribbean for 2 weeks.
There's no cruises in January.
Oh, there certainly is.
Have you ever tried emailing them all the out of office notices?
And then what happened? Right here, I get them all.
Oh, I just wait for them to get back in the office. I don't let them talk.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All in favor?